So that's the fabulous titled Rory and Ned. Yes, a duo we've been bigging up for quite some time. Another band that we're bigging up for quite some time are the Mudskippers, and they're right here in the studio, right here, right now, with me, Jax Cooper, on Riviera FM. Hello, guys.
Hello.
How are we all?
Yeah, we're good, thanks.
Excellent. So I think we should do a bit of a schoolroom-styling introduction. So let's go around the table and say who you are and what you do in the band.
Okay, I'm Bully. I sing and play guitar.
I'm Corinne, I play the clarinet and sax.
I'm Jo and I play the cello.
There we are, and I'm Jackson, I just live here. So guys, I mean, loving the music so far. Like we heard, it's been really great to play it and got great reactions every time, which I love. I always love picking some bands out that I personally like, and then people saying, yeah, they're good too, you know, I want to get into them as well. I believe there's an album coming, we'll talk about more of that in a minute. Yeah. But you have a bit of a long history really, don't you? Back in the 90s, first off.
Yeah.
Let's talk, how did it all come about then? How did it all start way back when?
Well, I've been just sort of singer-songwriter for quite a long time, obviously. Yeah. And wanted to get a band together, and just got together with a couple of friends, and we did our first gig in the Civic Hall in Totnes.
Okay.
And we didn't even have a name. And,
the band with no name.
The band with no name, and we were sat in what they called the dressing room, and there was somebody comparing, and they said, "Oh, have you got a name?" And there was a David Attenborough book there. Yeah. And just flicked to the index. Mudskippers was almost the first thing we saw, and everyone went, "Yeah, that'll do."
I'll have that one.
So that was how the name came about. And Stevie, who was the percussionist at that time, is actually now coming back to us and is doing them. And then that kind of lasted for a few gigs. Then we kind of went to a duo and different lineups, and then Jo and I met and started doing some stuff around about 92, something like that, wasn't it? Yeah. So we just started playing as a duo, and then
because you were playing solo, and I saw you playing at a gig one night, and said, "I want to play some cello with you."
I remember you. You.
And I thought, there's a chance somebody can actually put a tune to what I do, enhance my three chords. And we started rehearsing and doing a few things. Then we added a guitar player. Gigged as a trio for, how long did we do that? 3 years?
Yeah, 2 or 3 years, something like that.
Yeah, and then I can't really remember what happened at that point and why we all ended up going in different directions.
Just life happened, sort of stopped. And
yeah. I mean, we've obviously all carried on playing. Yeah. I've done lots of things in between, as everyone else has. And then Jo and I met by chance about 5 years ago at the Respect Festival.
Yeah. Oh, great. I love that.
So Jo gave me a phone number, which I put into my phone, and being the expert of technology I am, it didn't save it. So it was another year before I bumped into Jo again.
Extra respect.
No. Oh, I love it. So a meeting by chance, and then you go and lose the ruddy number.
Yeah.
And then the same event, you meet again.
Yeah.
What are the chances of that, eh?
And at that point, I made sure I got the phone number. And
press the save button, always good.
Just sort of talked about, whether Jo fancied sort of having a go at doing some music again. I sent us a CD of some sort of new songs. I didn't want us to kind of do the thing of let's get back together and do what we'd done years ago, partly because we've outgrown some of the songs we did in that time,
Exactly. A bit boring probably as well for you,
Not so much boring, but some of those songs were, they were written a long time ago.
Of a time.
Got a lot older. Yeah. Maybe a bit wiser, maybe not, but...
We have revisited some of them, though, haven't
we? Yeah, there's been a few that we've revisited, yeah. They've kind of come back and landed on us, which happens. So, yeah, we started playing, and then the guitar player that was with us all those years ago decided he was up for doing it as well. And then I recruited a percussionist that I'd worked with, and we did about 18 months as a 4-piece.
Yeah, I think so.
And then the guitarist decided he didn't want to carry on gigging, so he left, followed quite closely by the percussionist.
Back to a duo again, and then quickly turned into a trio.
Full circle in a kind of weird roundabout kind of way.
Yeah, so we're a trio, and it's possible we'll be a quartet by the end of the year, but as a core, we're a trio. Yeah. So hopefully what will happen over the next couple of years is we'll have other people that will come in and sit in on a gig now and again, and maybe get involved in the studio side of things. So.
Sounds rather nice. Rather harmonious. I'm liking this.
We are quite harmonious, I think, most of the time, aren't we?
We've never had a band argument yet.
No, not a band argument.
A regular argument. Why not?
Yeah, regular
Arguments,
arguments.
perhaps,
Yeah.
especially over set lists.
Oh, it's always the set list, isn't it? Every time. I'm not playing that. That's
Yeah.
rubbish. Get out of it.
Well, I'm trying to get to a situation where basically I'm the dictator,
Fair enough.
but in terms of the set list and which songs we end up doing. But I can't deal with Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff.
21st century nonsense.
That's everyone.
Well, I quite agree.
But it's not going to work. My idea of being a dictator is never going to work.
With all the will in the world,
No.
I've met you guys for a brief moment, but I think that
Yeah,
you're outnumbered,
we just
basically.
allow that as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
Nice try, though.
Yeah.
Respect on that one.
yeah.
So, I mean, the music itself, I mean, I love. I mean, how does it all kind of come about? I mean, when you sort of start writing it, who does what, and do you all bring stuff to the table, or is it a dictatorship in a sense, and you have songs and you all play them? I mean, how does it work?
For the most part, so far, is I write songs.
Yeah.
And so the songs we're doing mainly at the moment are songs that I've kind of brought along. So like to do something with this, but I don't come along with any kind of other parts in mind other than the vocal line and the guitar part. And even the arrangements are kind of they're kind of semi there.
Sure.
But then it's kind of open to what what Joe and
Do you have a
Colin
kind
bring
of
to it.
a thing in your head, or with different aspects of the music going on in your head, or are you completely blank in that respect, other than what you've got in
Well, in
front of
terms
you?
of writing?
Yeah. Do you have
Yeah.
an orchestra going in your head, and you know kind of what you want, or is it just literally
No.
guitar chords and then
No,
pass it on?
I kind of see it as like creating songs. Like it's a bit like an artist making a black and white sketch, and then an artist would then colour it in themselves. But so we have a group of artists who then do all the colouring
Yeah.
in. But we're kind of hoping to kind of do more collaboratively in terms of writing, because that's quite an interesting avenue
I
for
had
us
a
to
go
explore, isn't it?
Writing one song, so I'm not used to writing
Yeah.
songs, but I sketched out some lyrics, and then Bully turned it into something decent, and I came up with a tune.
Yeah,
as well,
you got the
didn't I?
tune,
So,
and
yeah,
you tune
some
and the
sidelines.
sort of song idea, and I
Yeah.
just sort of shaped them up into something that would scan. And
Yeah, so we'd like to do more of that, I think.
Is
Yeah.
that different to the way it was originally?
well, no, we pretty much worked in the same way originally, didn't we?
Yeah, you
No.
came up with the songs, and
Yeah.
I'd listen to them, and then just the cello
Yeah.
part would kind of come
Yeah.
to me, and so it's the same for you with the.
I mean, I guess the thing with the songs, if I come forward and say I've got a song, I'd like to do it with the band. It's, if the other guys don't like it, then it's like, fine, we won't do it.
Bin it,
you
gone.
know? Yeah, because there's something else.
We rarely ditch a song, though, do we?
It's
Maybe
true.
just the odd one or two.
Yeah.
but,
Do you find ones that maybe you've had in the past that you kind of come to a brick wall with, and then you kind of just forget it, I'm sick of it,
Yeah,
and then kind of come back to it in a weird way?
Yeah, you have relationships with songs, and so you kind
Yeah.
of fall out with them, and you lose touch with them, and all the way you interpret them changes, the meaning changes, and I'm sure lots of different writers write in different ways, and for me, most of the time, it's come in a kind of flash,
Lightning bolt
a
moment,
set of words kind of falls out of somewhere,
sort of complete in a sense.
Usually, yeah, most
Wow.
of the time, and then I kind of look at them and go, oh, what's that about?
And then figure it out afterwards.
Yeah, it's like it's coming from somewhere far deeper than my conscience most of the time.
It's come from the sky.
Yeah, I mean, it's the odd thing that, I kind of see something, I really want to say something about that or write something about it, and then that's a different process, that involves then kind of like maybe a bit of research and kind of making notes, and I've done a few songs like that, but it's a difficult approach for me. I know there are writers out there. There's a guy called Leon Rosselson who I kind of know a lot of what he's done, and his approach is very much like that. But you can see it on the page when you look at his lyrics. You can see how he's kind of constructed it, and I like it to be a bit more random than that, I think.
Just throw it all in.
Yeah.
I know it's because I personally like yourself, like how different artists do different things, whether it's like yourself, like a lightning bolt moment, and there it is fully formed, or whether you kind of do it in a more sort of poetic kind of way and slave over, line by line by line. It could take, X, Y, Z at a time, or people sort of see something and that's an instant thing and boom, it's gone, It's very, everyone's completely different, and that's kind of doing the show what I've kind of learned. Everyone just does it in their own weird way, and like some people, kind of have characters, and they get into a character. It's like writing a small play or something, It's completely different, I mean, it's interesting that you say that you have different ways of writing a song for different aspects of it, whether it be a lightning bolt moment or something you see, and then if you see something, you have to research it.
Yeah. And sometimes a song just comes about because you're just noodling around on an instrument, and a tune appears, and that starts suggesting words, you know, and that can be really random. You know, I've known other bands in the past who will start, literally, they have a tune idea and just start jamming it, and then a singer will just start singing random words, and out of that grows a song, you know. So, I mean, I've been asked. I got asked once years ago, could I teach somebody songwriting? And I said,
difficult one.
I don't. You can't teach somebody to have ideas. That's for certain. But can you teach form? I guess so.
Yeah.
You know,
but
then
the other side of the argument,
restricting the form. You know.
The other side of the argument would be then, well, are you making it just like, you know, like a job, you know, writing or learning how to learn, you know, do a kind of a machine or something, you know, and it comes out like a machine. Or
yeah, I mean, you've got the famous songwriting factories, and you know, I mean, people that spring to mind straight away, people like Carole King, you know, David Crosby, Graham Nash, particularly. You know, and those guys were able to do exactly that. Sit in a room, someone come along and say, we need a song for this advert or this movie. It's got to have this kind of theme in it, and they can just do it.
It's amazing.
I'm hugely jealous of that.
Oh, me too.
You know, because you know, that's the cash cow.
Writing to order.
Yeah.
Oh, I need a new car. There we go.
You know, I wish I was able to write the sort of song that someone like Kylie Minogue would sing.
Yes.
Because I've always thought the best way of success would be to be able to be that successful without anybody knowing who you are. So you can still walk down the street and have a normal life.
It's crazy, isn't it? You know, best of both worlds.
Exactly. Yeah.
So when you've got an idea together and you've all kind of done your own parts.
Yeah.
At what point do you go out and sort of, you know, play it to a crowd and see how it goes down, whether you're going to keep it or not, or do you just think it's great, I'm keeping it?
I think the criteria is whether we like it, isn't it?
Yeah. I think usually if we like it, then, I don't think we've ever ditched a song that we've taken out. Yeah.
I mean, there are always certain things that go down easier with an audience than others, and sometimes that's because of subject matter. Maybe you're saying something that people find a bit uncomfortable for whatever reason.
Yeah, there's some songs we don't end on because they're not quite so jolly.
They're like danger songs.
Yeah, well, they're not so cheerful. I mean, I describe us as a funeral band quite often, you know.
I kind of like that. I don't know why.
Well, in the same sense, you know, somebody like Leonard Cohen is, you know.
One of my favourites.
But when you listen to Leonard Cohen, it's so funny, a lot of their songs, you know.
It's like black comedy half of it, isn't it, really?
It is, yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, people like Morrissey, again.
Yeah.
Incredibly funny writer, you know.
Do you have people in the crowd that sometimes have come up to you and said, you know, that was a bit dark for me, or I felt a bit uncomfortable? Do you try and get that feedback in that way?
No.
We've always had really positive feedback, haven't we?
Yeah.
I
think generally people, if people are going to come up and give you any feedback, it's because they've liked what you do.
Yeah.
Most people are kind of, you know, if they don't like something, they're not going to come up.
Exactly.
Know. I've had 2 occasions in my life where people have, you know.
Really?
Yeah, somebody came up and said, oh, that was the biggest pile I've ever heard.
And what was your response to that? Interesting.
I said, well, that's your opinion, that's fine. Yeah. And I did this funny little gig in a pub years ago in Wales, in a little village called Buryport. And it was a real kind of hippie biker type pub, and I thought, oh, this would be okay. Got to the end of the first half, and this guy came up to me and said, "You're the most miserable songwriter I've ever heard in my life, and we'd really like it. And we'd really like it if you don't do the second half."
Really? Ouch!
But the same weekend, I was also booked to play in a pub in this little village, and it was full of old miners.
Yeah.
And it was all men. They were all wearing suits, and they all sang. And I thought, I'm going to get lynched in this place. It's going to be like Ku Klux Klan sort of thing, you know. They loved it.
Never can tell.
No, never can tell. You know, he's an Englishman, you know, in a very, very Welsh village, and they absolutely loved it. It was brilliant.
See, that must give you such a buzz, though.
Oh, yeah,
you know,
of course.
The yin and yang of gigs there, right?
Yeah,
I guess, you know?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
We're going to play a song back in a moment.
place I've never been to, where ancient rivers flow, absorbing all the mysteries, and where life's beauty goes. It's not for lack of trying to get there if I can. Should I be apologizing for being imperfect now, as I make my way through these borrowed times, replacing every stone I turn, always aware they're not really mine. When strangers come together, just like they've always known, the secret place of winter months, where the birds have always flown, in answer to a calling that is so to hear, above the sound of voices and that self-fulfilling fear, as I make my way through these borrowed times, replacing every stone I turn, always aware that I'm really There's a claim to an understanding of all that's gone before. I will be the last man standing unless I really can be sure that it's not a work of fiction. It's purpose to deny the right of every living soul to discover they can fly, as I make my way through these borrowed times, replacing every stone I turn, always a while I'm not really mine, as I make my way through these borrowed times, replacing every stone I turn, always a while I'm not really
So that was the Mudskippers there with a track which I've just been finding out. They've just reworked. How rude. That was replacing The Stein there in the studio talking to me right now. So guys, we're doing the album, I believe, at this very moment.
We are, yeah.
Tell me about that. How's it going? What are you doing?
It's going quite well. It's been a bit stop and start because we're doing it ourselves. Don't have a producer, so I'm kind of self-producing, which is really difficult. But yeah, it's going okay. It was a bit of a slow start, but we've gathered quite a lot of momentum recently, and yeah, that track is one of the ones we've totally redone.
And it's the next one I'm playing as well, I believe.
It is indeed. Yeah.
Do you know, I've looked at my notes. It said final mix.
Yeah.
Final mix. Yeah, right.
That was 10 to
Well, it was the
play.
final mix of that version.
Yeah, oh, technicality. So, what sort of theme's going through the album? I mean, do you know how many tracks you got on it?
12.
Okay.
I think. Yeah, 12.
Yeah, and is there a sort of theme going through it?
Not really. I mean, unless there is a theme that goes throughout the songs that I don't kind of recognise myself, there might be.
There's not one that you've kind of put in thought to and said, right, okay, this guy has a story behind it, or all the way through meaning.
No, I mean, the title of the album, we're going to call the album Replacing the Stone.
Uh-huh.
So that's kind of like the central track. And it's quite a personal song, that one. But it's actually it's for another musician.
Right.
But it just kind of felt like, I don't know, there's something about the song and the title of it. I thought that's a good name for an album, and you know, Joe's kind of working on some artwork for it.
Pictures of stones.
I was going to say the artwork.
Yeah,
Love it.
yeah,
So it's all in house then. You've got the artwork coming out of the band. You've got the music coming out of the band.
yeah. It is at the moment. I've got a friend of mine, because I'm going to do all the vocals at the end. Although we've
Right.
got some vocals on the tracks at the moment, to kind of get the best performances, I figured it was best to have all the music. And there's a friend of mine that I do a lot of other music with, and we've got a really, really good kind of brutal working relationship, where we're really so honest with each
Really?
other. Anybody that stood outside of a room thinks we're arguing, and we're not. We're just really honest. So he's going to kind of take the role of producer with the vocals, because he will be really brutal with me and he knows what I can do,
And just say that's
find out
rubbish.
what he can
Move
do.
on.
Yeah, he'll tell
Yeah.
me I can do it better if he thinks I can.
I guess that's what you want, though, isn't it? Someone just to say,
Yeah.
look, you know what? You're miles better than that. Do it.
When you listen to something so many times, you lose the ability to hear whether it's
Get
any good or
blinkers.
not. Yeah.
Well, you do
close
that
up,
with us. I mean, when I'm
Yeah.
playing, but Bully's kind of the producer. When I'm playing
Yeah.
the cello, you know, he'll
Yeah.
tell me if I don't get away with a
Yeah.
slightly dodgy note. And
Yeah.
So now
Well,
the
we did
producer's got a
discuss-
producer.
But we did discuss that first and agree that's what we would do. It wasn't suddenly me going, that was out of tune, you know.
Dictator
or
here.
say, oh no, I know you can play that better. Let's do it again. you
That's
know.
the thing, is you kind of get to know musicians you're working with, and you do start to kind of know their ability, and often you believe they can do more than they believe themselves, you know.
Exactly.
And I think that's the same for me, and I think John will push me further than what I think I can do. So hopefully that way we'll get the best result.
Hopefully so.
Then at that point, once all the recording's done, then we've got to do all the mixing. So I've got another friend who's going to give me some input on that as well, just so I've got somebody else's ears. And then we'll go into a studio and decide whether we need to go to a mastering studio or not, or just do it ourselves.
So at that point, you sort of see what you've got, and then do you think we'll make that decision for you?
How it sounds.
Purely how it sounds. Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel for
How
it.
it all comes
Yeah,
together.
and kind of, you know, if we listen to what we've got, and then listen to some other kind of contemporary albums and see how they kind of sit together, and
You'll kind of know where the land lies, guess.
yeah, and how far off the mark we are, you know, because it's that thing, if we play a track on the radio, and then you play a track by Mumford and Sons, not that that's particularly contemporary, but as
Oh, you
an
mean,
acoustic-based act, if it sounds like they're in one world and we're in another, in terms of sound, then obviously we've got some work to do. you know.
Exactly.
I mean, we're not going to get to sound like somebody like that, because they've got thousands and thousands of pounds to go into expensive studios. We've done about the size of this studio, which
used
for
to it
most
then.
people out there listening is probably half a bathroom, isn't it?
I'd say it's a full bathroom, I'll have you know.
or if you're in bedsit land, this is probably the average bedsit size these
Yeah,
days.
you're in my bed right now, yeah. Get out. But like you mean, it's funny, isn't it, how, you know, there is a gulf, and can be like a sort of, you know, a kind of a game of sound going on, you know. The barrage keeps going higher and higher and higher, and it's quite hard to catch up. But I have to say, doing the sort of shows that we do here, and you get sent through, you know, oodles and hours and hours and hours. You know, 4 years ago when I first started this show, the gap between the sounds were humongous.
Yeah.
Now it's not so different, really. You know.
No, because so many people are doing it themselves.
Exactly,
You know,
yeah.
because of, you know, the sort of, you know, the programs, the studio programs you can buy, you know, downloading stuff, people have got there's all this equipment that years ago would have had to have been in a massive great
It's amazing.
studio with loads of outboard equipment,
Yeah.
and now it's all in a little box.
It's crazy, isn't it?
And it's just about learning how to use it and how good your ears are.
I guess it's another instrument, isn't it, really? You know, learning
Yeah.
how to use
Yeah,
this thing as an
really.
instrument.
Yeah.
So the album itself, obviously you're reworking stuff and you've got percussions in. Is it going to be a bit more punchier? Is it going to be a sort of a harder sound, or how's it kind of shaping up in terms of sonic sound?
I think some tracks we're really kind of going forward, thinking about it in terms of like we're recording this in the studio. This isn't what we do live.
Yeah.
So because it's a recording, so we can
Play.
kind of play around with it. Yeah. But there's some other tracks in it we kind of want pretty much to be what we do live, really, don't we?
There's a real ebb and flow to the album. There's some tracks that are really intense. There are some tracks that are mellow. So I mean, there's a whole range of sound tunes.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued. I'm looking forward to it.
So yeah, we go from stuff that is you could definitely hear it and go, that's very much a kind of folky kind of song, and then there's tracks that I think are closer to kind of
Indie pop.
indie.
Kind of,
I've always felt the kind of post-punk thing, really.
Yeah.
I guess because that's where I started. So I kind of feel the influences of people like Paul Weller and that come through, and then there's kind of slightly more proggy kind of influence as well.
Great combination, though. Loving that combination.
Prog punk folk. I can't even say.
Yeah. Do you know what? I was going to. I thought I'm not going to do that.
I think in terms of the themes, you talked about a theme. We wanted to have it quite dynamic. We didn't want it to be sort of all the songs the same kind of sound. So there's the slower ones, the faster ones, quieter ones, louder ones. And
So ebb and flow, I suppose.
Yeah.
Peaks and troughs of the music.
Yeah. I mean, I think most of the songs are fairly reflective of things that are real in the world, but they won't necessarily be obvious to the listener unless we make extensive notes, say this song was about.
Yeah, which kind of spoils it sometimes, I think.
It can do, yeah.
It's too much reading that and not enough time listening to it.
Sometimes it's good to kind of interpret something yourself,
Definitely, yeah.
I mean, a lot of artists that I like, Captain Beefheart springs to mind as someone that writes lyrics that, you read these lyrics and go, what on earth is
Off
that
the wall.
about? And everybody will say something different, and that's kind of that's what it is. It's your interpretation.
Exactly.
It's like looking at a painting, isn't it?
Totally, exactly right. And sometimes when I've had people talk about, let's say, one of my favourite songs, and I've had this image of this thing, whatever it may be, and it's completely ruined.
Yeah.
And then all you can think about is that piece of information you got stuck in there. It's never the same again.
Yeah.
The sort of romanticism's gone.
Yeah. The
You know.
movie of your favourite book.
Yeah, gone. Doof.
Yeah.
So I quite agree. Keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
So if people like what they're hearing tonight, where can they get hold of you in this sort of 21st century media type world of ours?
Do you want me to run off the W's? Website mudskippers.moonfruit.com. So it's mudskippers.moonfruit.com. We're
Without
on
the giggles.
Facebook, it's / Mudskipper Music, and Twitter we are at Mudskipper Music. So those are the main sort of 3 places.
Great, and we'll put that on the blog after the show if people have missed that as well. Great Twitter fans, I had your whole journey on Twitter this day.
Yeah.
Loved it. I'm on the train.
Selfies on the train.
Yeah, I was just sat there looking confused and not really understanding.
What's going on? It's mad. Twitter. We're going to end with Twins.
Okay.
Our version, or my version, your version, if you know what I mean. Gig-wise, what you got coming up?
Do you want me
Go on, yeah.
Carl, you do the gigs. Can you remember them or should I do it? You want me to do it?
I'm not doing this. Not doing it.
It's got great radio
pressure
voice
bag,
as
I
well.
remember it. Right, on Sunday we are down at Parrot Fest at the Apple and Parrot in Torquay, 3 to 4 p.m. And then the following week, the 12th of July, we are at Evolution, the Crystal Cafe, Saturday the 12th at 1 o'clock. Is that
Cool.
right?
In Exeter.
In Exeter, sorry,
Yeah.
Evolution.
Good
4th
cake,
Street,
I believe.
4th Street.
I hope
Exeter.
so.
Yeah,
Great
I've been
food.
told good cake.
And after that, I think we've got something at John Gandy's on the 7th of August, not quite confirmed yet.
Okay.
I think that might be happening. And then we might go busking down at Sidmouth Folk Festival.
Yeah,
Sounds
we'll
cool
probably
idea.
sing down around there, yeah.
Yeah.
Hope the sun shines.
Some private parties, and then I think the 4th of September at Casa Maroc
Yeah.
in Exeter.
Sounds like fun.
That's with the 2 guys out of Wax Room as well.
Okay, yeah, come on the show next week.
Yeah,
Fab
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
So this is the first time you played the Torquay, the Parrot Fest.
Yeah, Yeah.
First time we played Torquay, or
I mean, I've
never
only
been
ever
this.
played one gig in Torquay in 30 years.
How was it for you?
I'd rather not go there.
Fair enough. Well, you know what? I hope it goes down
It's got
well.
to be better these days than it used to be. There's,
He says, long dramatic pause. Look, seriously, it's a great event, and there's all sorts of music going on there. I mean, literally, if you can think of a genre, it'll be there. So you don't quite know what you're going to get, and every one's different. They do it about every sort of 6 months
and
or
it's,
so.
as far as I understand, all the bands play their own stuff. And
Completely, that's the point.
yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
that's, it's getting harder and harder to find that, and difficult for local bands.
Exactly.
Young bands. I mean, I've just been involved in doing the Exeter Respect Festival, and we did exactly that, put all bands on doing their own stuff, and
Yeah.
that was really exciting to...
It is. I mean, it's like a show, really. We don't allow covers of any nature unless in a live session. And I think it's just, it's good to see songwriting kicking alive and being good.
Absolutely.
And not being,
Yeah.
pants, really.
so much of it in Devon as well.
There is more than people realise
Yeah,
and need
there's
to
some
find out.
incredible young musicians sort of up and coming, which is really great and inspiring. So,
Totally.
yeah.
Well, guys, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Hope the Parrot Fest goes well and everything else.
Yeah.
And I look forward to the album of many different colours, it would seem.
Yeah, well, we'll make sure you get a copy as soon as it's done, yeah.
Excellent stuff. Thanks, guys.
Okay, cheers.
Bye.
Look over there, there's a man on the ground. I'm wondering now what he has found to occupy him eternally. Perhaps he's found a way of being free. Oh man, young man, tell me, do you have a plan? Break out or drop out? Wish I could find what it is about. There's a woman I see on her run. She smiles and nods her head, she's not alone. And to me it's all a mystery. Perhaps the best friend is the one you can't see. Someone or no one, doesn't matter if it takes time, in fear or in chill. Wish I could see and touch everyone. If I should wake and find a change, look in the mirror and see someone strange, would you walk away or hang around, or stop to pick me off the ground? Not all but so old, so many stories told, they lie, so we try to write a different